Yeah,
Yeah,
American
the
Easter.
American Easter. Oh, yeah, right. Ukrainian Easter is later, I guess, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I do Greek Orthodox Easter, which is sometimes it's the same. Like maybe once in a blue moon, it'll fall on the same day, but normally it's like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. It could be. Yeah, I think this year it's like a month later.
Okay. Yeah. Excuse me.
But it's
But
cool
you
because then like all the Easter stuff is like cheap at the store.
right? Yeah. Are they still selling the Peeps and the Cadbury chocolate Easter eggs and stuff?
Yeah, I was at Safeway the other day, and it's like all the different flavors of Peeps, and they had all kinds of stuff. I really like the Easter. It looks like carrot. It's like orange jelly beans in the bag. Looks like a carrot.
Okay. Okay. I have to look at that. My daughters are all about the jelly beans. I had no idea the jelly beans would be such a hit, but
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
also find,
I gave him jelly beans like two, maybe the first time I came over. I gave him the big bag of jelly beans.
dude, that's right. Yes, you
Yeah,
did. You actually
pretty
might
good.
have been responsible for introducing them to a jelly bean.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're like, what is this humongous bag with all these different flavors? Like, this is interesting.
dude, that's right. Fucking Uncle Rich. I'll never understand like getting, vomit flavor and all the other stuff, I
No,
don't get it.
yeah, it's super gross. If you can make anything. Like I understand the idea behind it, and I guess you're supposed to be like Harry Potter. Maybe I don't know if Harry Potter was
I
the
think that's right.
initial
Yeah.
thing. It's just like I don't know. You take something so pure and so freaking good, and then you're just like, let's ruin it.
Just why would you want someone's just like, all right, they're in a conference room. They're like, all right, we're thinking about flavor. Oh, how about the part of the bagel that's burnt in the toaster? Let's do burnt bagel as a flavor. It's like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Why?
Okay. But honestly, on the flip side, my mind is blown how they can make it be so close. Like I've never tasted earwax, but it's like they come pretty close to what earwax probably tastes like.
I've never tasted earwax, but this is on the nose for earwax.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume based off of their scientific research that that's what it tastes like.
Based on what my Q-tips smell like, I think this is
Yeah,
right on
yeah. I
point.
guess it's like a scent. From what I've heard, scent is the closest
That's
thing.
right.
Or if you have a cold, you can't taste. So it's all related.
That's right. And dude, did you know I got sick on December 3rd of 2023 last year, and I lost my sense of taste until like, I don't know, mid-February,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, yeah.
Was it COVID or was it just sick?
I have to imagine it was. I tested negative.
Uh,
But what does that mean? I only tested myself once. But I did wait for the window. You're like supposed to wait. You're supposed to there's a critical period where you're supposed to test, because if you test too early, you miss it or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, that's what everyone said. They're like, "Oh, let's long COVID, dude." And my wife thinks I still have long COVID because I have a cough that also hasn't really gone away since December.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember people talking about, "Oh yeah, I hold on to a cough for months," way before the pandemic. So either way, we were talking before we got on air about, so I'm in my office. This is the, right when you come in the front door, right on the left.
Yeah.
And I will share, I think this is the first time I'm talking about this on air. So listeners are finding out.
New season, new information.
New season, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's spring, I guess. The purple and yellow things are popping up out of the ground. But I have news to share with you and with listeners, which is I am retiring from two things. I'm retiring from group practice ownership. So the clinicians that work at my practice, the Couple and Family Clinic, they'll be moving on to greener pastures, to better things, and I will also be letting the lease expires down in Bethesda in September. And I was actually going on office space hunting and touring like 10-year leases. So
wow.
this was a radical change to be like, if we had talked, a couple months ago, you'd been like, hey man, what's new for you? What's on the horizon? I would be telling you a much different story. Like, oh, I'm like hiring new providers and we're going to, move to a new space and more treatment rooms, etc. Instead, I'm retreating to Zoom land or to Google Meet land, doing virtual therapy. Like, I'm not gonna work in person anymore. And so there's 3 shifts. So one is just being a solo practitioner. 2 is no longer having in-person office space. So, you know, if you need a couch or know anyone that needs a couch, you know, there's like all the office furniture. And then 3 is I am going to metaphorically swim outside beyond the buoys. You know, when you go to like a beach and they have like an area where it's like, don't swim beyond that, you know,
a little bit too deep.
A little too deep. You know, we're not responsible for what happens to you if you go out there. That's where I'm going to go metaphorically in the healing arts. So as a psychotherapist, I help people with your garden variety, you know, anxiety, depression, OCD, trauma, et cetera, et cetera. But psychotherapists don't have really a framework for working with non-human entities, the things that people can encounter when they do lots of DMT or mushrooms or fast or holotropic breathing or any kind of a trance state. You can encounter things that are not really a part of you, Rich, or a part of me, Robin, or whoever the person is. And, you know, other language, we call them entities, you could call them demons. In internal family systems world, they're referred to as unattached burdens. We may have talked about this the last time that we were together. I'm not sure.
We might have touched on it,
But that's now like, that's not a, I'm debating whether or not I need to open a new LLC or if I can just make an amendment to my articles of organization with the state of Maryland and say, now, in addition to individual, couple, and family counseling, I offer spiritual healing.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's the 3rd shift. It's the weirdest one of all the shifts. For sure.
It's only natural. Like, okay, the MCU, like all the Marvel movies, it was pretty ground level for a while, and then they're like, you know, dude, we got to go to space. It's just like the next step of like, look, I've done everything I feel like I'm comfortable with. I want to see where else I can go. What else is out there? Yeah, good for you, man.
Yeah, well, it's also very organic, right? Like, as evidenced by the fact that I was like, oh, if 2 months ago you had asked me, I would have told you that's what I was doing. And then like, why the change? Like, how did it turn so radically? I essentially conferenced with my parts, right? Like, so I had like a business owner part that was like, hey man, we started this business, you know, 10 years ago. You know, we've hired associates before. We're going to grow a group practice. This is the vision and the mission. Like, we're on our mountain and we're climbing up the mountain and bet more growth, et cetera, et cetera. And I was slowly having another part of me had a voice essentially that was getting louder and louder and kind of saying, I actually don't want to do this, you know. And I went inside. I had a sort of a conference table meeting, a facilitation with this part that was there the whole time 10 years ago, who was like, no one ever asked me if I wanted to sign up for this, you know, professional goal or whatever, right? So I met with both of them. The business owner was very anxious, very stressed out, actually carried a lot of shame around not having enough time with my daughters and like repeating. Go ahead.
I was going to say before, that's good. Like the fact that you're just going to be at your house all the time. Closer. I'm leaving from Bethesda. It might take me an hour, might take me 2 hours to get home. Now you're just take the headphones off. Hey girls, like I'm right here.
Well, the pandemic, that was the new workflow for the pandemic. Before the pandemic, it's true. I had evening sessions in downtown Bethesda. I would drive home. I would get home, and Kelly would be like, they might still be awake. You can go in and like kiss them. Like,
yeah, you missed all the good stuff.
That sucks. So yeah, so this business owner part was carrying like not only like anxiety and stress around all that, but dude, this is my therapy session. You're my therapist right now. I'm talking.
Cool, man. Yeah.
So long story short,
we're doing a reverse. We're doing a reverse podcast today.
Role reversal. That's right. That's
I always wanted you to be like. I like when like the host gets to be the guest and vice versa. Like that's totally Robin. Yeah.
Totally. Except I'm such a motor mouth. I won't let you get a word in edgewise to answer a question. I'll ask my own questions and then answer them. No. But
change is good, man. Change is good.
Yes. So long story short, that is like what happened is I slowly got more clarity, and it wasn't a bypassing of my business owner part like I had done to the other part that was like, I never wanted to be a group practice owner, you know, and that's just a part of me, right? Just one part, just like 2 senators out of 100, or like, we didn't sign up for this bill, you know? So then that's,
you're going up the mountain and somebody came along with you on the trip. And then as you're getting to the top, you guys like discuss like, all right, what was the whole point of this? Maybe like even your goal was to get to the top of the mountain and you get like 3/4 and you're just like, what if we don't go all the way to the top? What if we go a different way? What if we go back down and reassess, you know?
good. That's right. Like, you like imagine a nature walk like with little kids, and like the kids in the back of the line are like, we're hungry, we need a snack, and you don't hear them. Yeah. So there's
they're like, and eventually the other kids start to hear it, and then they tell you like, okay, I'm not necessarily agreeing with what they want to do, but I'm tired of hearing them talking. So maybe we should all come to like what's the best for everybody.
Yeah. So there's not always awareness and internal, like intrapersonal communication. Very oftentimes parts are like, I didn't even know that part existed. So they're not necessarily all aware of each other in a line like that metaphor. But the point being is like, that's how I got clarity. And then this is like, and the thing is like, I'm about to turn 40, and the cliche thing is like, is this a midlife crisis? Like you're stopping this work, you're doing this other stuff. And I'm like, call it what you will. I don't know. Things happen in 40-year cycles. Maybe it's not an accident that I'm turning 40 and this is all happening organically. I did not predict this at all.
No, I feel the same way. I think it just happens. You're at a point where it's like, okay, you've had kids, you're comfortable with your job, and you're just kind of like, is this it? Is this all there is? Or is there more for me to do in a different way? You just kind of get not complacent, but you just like, you go over to the soup and you're like, maybe I make it with different ingredients this time. Just the way I've been doing it. Maybe I'll just try. Maybe it's scary, but it's not too scary. Let's just mix things up.
Yeah. And I don't think I ever had the experience of, is this it? Because I've always been so inundated with responsibilities. So there wasn't like, you know, if you get laid off and you're like, okay, now what? Like if you have a lot of discretionary time, you might fill that time up immediately. Like, I don't actually want to sit in the question, is this it? Like, I just got laid off. So that means I'm going to go do these things and take care of these other things that I never had time for. People keep themselves pretty busy. I'm one of them, you know?
That was one of the things with COVID, like when a lot of people got laid off, and then people, even before that, they're like, oh, I wish I could read this book series. I wish I could watch this whole TV show. I wish I could go do this. And it's like, obviously, you weren't really supposed to be going out and doing a whole lot of stuff, but you had an opportunity to do some of those things. And it's like, if you didn't do them, then maybe they're just not for you. Like, but just because you have the opportunity to do it, and then you find yourself not doing it, maybe you're just like, okay, like I wasn't really supposed to do that.
Yeah. I remember we talked about that the last time you came on the show, among many other things.
It's interesting when you get handled, because like you don't ever, like, unless you get laid off, but it's like you don't ever get expected to huge thing of change. A lot of times people think it's going to come soon, and then sometimes it's just given to you. Here you go. Like they just throw you the baby and you have to catch it, and then you have to. It takes you out of your comfort zone, which is good, because then it helps you. Like, I got to do something now, instead of like you'll just procrastinate. You'll put things off, but then when it comes time, like, okay, the lease is up. It's like, I have to make a big decision here.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, it's life hands you something that you weren't necessarily expecting. I mean, how do you think my clinicians feel when I have the conversation with them? I'm like, oh, your last day of work is this day. And they're like, what? I didn't see this coming. Right. And like, I wasn't planning 2024 to have to like go interview to new places, you know, or consider, hey, maybe I'll start my own practice, you know, and like get in the whole like paperwork of, you know. Oh, that was the other thing that I wanted to say was the spiritual healing work is not necessarily regulated by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene.
Yeah.
Right. So as a therapist, like if someone lives in DC, I can't see them through telehealth because I'm not licensed in DC or Virginia. I'm only licensed in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And before, you know, being in Bethesda, they could just drive to my office, right? Or someone from Virginia drive to the office.
Yeah.
Now you have to be in the state of Maryland, and with spiritual healing services, You just have to speak English, you know, like, and be in a time zone where I'm not like seeing you at 2 a.m. because that's not going to work for me, you know?
It's
So,
interesting that that's the the rules are totally different because it's a totally different type of
but
stuff.
what I tell people is like, I'm planning on releasing this video I did with Bob Falconer, who has been on the show, and he's a master IFS clinician. IFS is for internal family systems therapy. And I went to Bob because he's one of few specialists to get these unattached burdens out, or these demons or these dark energies out of a person. I contracted with him. He's out in Santa Cruz, California. I'm here in Silver Spring. We were doing a telehealth, you know, it was this format on Google Meet. I recorded it, and my intention was to get this unattached burden out of me, this UB out of my system. But he just ended up doing classic IFS with me. Like, okay, we're gonna heal one of 8-year-old Robin got scared by his dad's anger. There's some trauma stored in his body. We can actually heal that, you know. So reason why I bring that up is what it looks like between psychotherapy world and spiritual healing world. That Venn diagram there's a lot of convergence. So I'm like, I tell my wife, I'm like, you want to see how the sausage gets made? Like, it looks pretty much the same. We're just like, do you want pork sausage or do you want chicken sausage? You know, that's the difference between, I'm probably not doing a justice, you know, the difference is because it is deeper work. I do say, like, if you go beyond the buoys, you might get eaten by sharks if you're afraid of sharks, you know. But if you're not afraid, you won't get eaten, you know.
Which is some people just need a different, like, there's only so much one type of therapy can do, and then maybe you hit like a breakthrough, and then it's like, okay, we have to travel to a new travel to and hit more.
Or the therapist doesn't have a framework for this stuff and is like, oh, okay, past lives, I don't know, I can refer you to like someone who specializes in schizotype, or you know,
but
like,
then like for you personally, maybe you're like, you know what, I want to level up. Like, I don't have the knowledge to take care of this, but maybe I want to, instead of just being able to tell somebody, oh, I'm really sorry, this is the extent of what I know. You're as a curious person, you're just like, well, I want to be able to help this person with whatever the next thing they have.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, if you conceptualize mental health disorders as spiritual disorders, it takes you to different territories in the dungeon. You know, like, I'm thinking of Zelda. Like, there's you have to, or you push the graveyard. Like, you can walk around in this graveyard, but if you push this tombstone, you'll get the magic sword. You know?
There might be some steps underneath one of the graves, and it's like, well, where does this take me?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is, if you conceptualize, let's take schizophrenia. Okay. Let's take that disorder. So the DSM, I think it's in the Bethesda office. I don't know why I'm gesturing to my left. But the DSM, the Psychiatrist Bible, right? Says for schizophrenia, like, what are the symptoms? Like, what are the prevalent, like, where does it show up in the country? Who does it affect? And what age is the age, you know, common average age of onset? But how do we treat schizophrenia in our culture? You know, we tell someone, okay, this is, do you have a genetic prehistory for that? Or did you take certain substances that might have, you know, triggered an onset of a psychotic episode, as opposed to full-blown florid psychosis that lasts months and months and months? Like, and so it's like, okay, well, let's get you in with a psychiatrist. We can give you an antipsychotic, give you some meds. If it's really bad, we might need to hospitalize you, you know, voluntary or involuntary, like your family is like, or the police, you know, have taken you from the ER to Shepherd Pratt in Baltimore. You know, it's like the how we treat it. If we don't have a spiritual framework, that's what we're going to do. Versus if we have a spiritual framework, we're just going to get, I mean, obviously, if the person is like violent, you can't just sit there and be like, huh, let's talk to your dead aunt. Like, no. But when they're not in a violent setting or gear, if you ask a person about what voice they're hearing, and you treat the voice not as if it's a foreign invader or something that's not welcome, if the clinician is not afraid of all that and can ask the person to basically, hey, you can interact with this voice. Maybe this voice is telling you to like kill your boss, kill your boss, kill your boss, or like whatever it's saying.
Yeah.
Just ask the voice. Ask it with humility and curiosity. If you're not afraid of it,
like my boss, how's that going to like help us, or what's that going to do? Like,
what's the positive intention? Yeah. How is that? Yeah. Like, well, why do you want me to kill my boss? You know,
there's a far out movie. It's from like 10 years ago. It's called Take Shelter. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's Michael Shannon, and he's having visions of like an apocalypse. But his mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and so he's trying to figure out. He's just like, am I also coming down with schizophrenia, or am I really seeing visions of the apocalypse? And it's trying to figure out like which is it.
Right.
What so I don't want to go too more. It's a really good movie, but it's interesting because you're just like, could this be one thing, or could this be something else? And everybody, he's convinced. I think he thinks it's the apocalypse, and everybody else thinks he's having schizophrenia. And then maybe he's like, oh, maybe I do have schizophrenia. But it's I think it's a pretty cool movie.
Right, and I appreciate the recommendation, especially for listeners who might be curious. But what you're saying is like, well, the protagonist is questioning what's the real reality.
Yeah,
it sounds like, you know, and
it's hard to. How do you? I guess it's like the symptoms of the schizophrenia. There's no. How do you like I guess like the evidence, like, oh, I think this is happening, but everybody else is like, it's not happening, dude. But then if it's a sign of the apocalypse, it's like, look, I guess it depends on like how passionate you are about what's happening.
And that's a really good point, Rich, is the question of what's the evidence? Because that's what the rationalists and the skeptics will say. Look, if there's no evidence for what you're claiming, then why am I wasting my precious non-renewable resource of time with you? Like, what's the evidence to substantiate your claim? And with consensus reality, objective reality, you're able to say, we can replicate this. We can run an placebo-controlled like clinical trial here and like see what's actually real versus something that's radically subjective and can't necessarily be poked holes in through the scientific method. And the moment you tell someone, if the scientific method can't verify or validate this, then it's a way, then we're talking about magic and mumbo jumbo, right?
Yeah.
So the minute you close the door to that way of helping someone heal, you have, in some cases, damned them.
Right.
I don't want to say you've cursed them, but yeah, like the way we treat that disorder in our culture versus how it's treated in other cultures, where their theory of mind is they actually have a container where they're like, oh yeah, my dead aunt used to like nag me that way too, you know. And it's like, you can still have psychotic episodes, but your role in society is like, oh, you've been given a very dangerous gift. You know, if you choose between the battle of the war of good and evil, like if you choose to, you can help other people who are challenged by this similar affliction. This is not someone who's hospitalized. This is someone who's an integral member who's valued in society. Whereas in our culture, it's take this pill that has terrible effects, by the way, on your neurochemistry and your body, your brain. Like,
it's totally dumbing you down. It's like, oh, the voices you're not gonna hear the voices anymore. It doesn't mean they're not still there. It just means I'm not gonna hear them anymore.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's right. That's like, it's like we're in the springtime. It's like, if you don't have screens in, put your screens so the bugs can't get in your house. The bugs are still out there. They just can't seem to get in your house. Your house is less porous. Maybe it's a bad analogy because, you know,
no, but there's going to be a time where you go outside the house and you're going to be like, the bugs are still here. I thought the screens took care of it. So it's like you can only, the pill's only going to help for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's going outside of the house is, I haven't been able to renew my prescription, you know.
Right. Yeah, you let it slide, or you get busy with something, and then it's like, it's all coming back, and then all the whatever work you did is wasted.
But this kind of work is, the moment someone comes to a healer to work on this stuff, they stop being the primary client, which sounds a little strange. The primary client is now the lost ancestor. So you get this energy, this being who's lost, who's not a part of this person. You offer it healing, and many times it will go to the healing realms. Sometimes unfortunately, it will scurry back into the darkness out of
Yeah.
fear. It's afraid that love will hurt it.
Well, it's
And
kind of like a seance almost, and you're
you could,
talking
you could, yeah, you could
like
look at it that.
you're talking to somebody else through another person.
Yeah,
So some other
yes,
person
it's
is
exactly
like,
right. The entity is not, I don't have any interaction with it unless the person can speak for it or from it. Now, if they speak from it, that looks like spirit possession, right? Like they're
yeah,
the body. And then there was this, I probably should be careful about what I share that's not behind a paywall. I'm going to have Bob on the show next month, and I'll, maybe I'll, if I remember, ask him, because there's many, I guess, apparently in the IFS community that don't like this stuff being talked about publicly. They don't like when the internal family system
but it's because it's
celebrated.
different, and it's like, people probably see it as weird.
Not only weird, but it can be used to discredit the model, right?
Right.
Like the annual conference was the 40th anniversary for the model, the discovery and development of this model. 40 years doing internal family systems. That was the annual conference last year in Denver, Colorado. Bob submitted like a presentation to talk about this stuff. He was denied. They're like,
Oh,
no.
wow.
Now, fair. And maybe that's just because it's just not popular. It's like, there's not enough interest to have this panel.
It takes time to have this panel, and then to warrant having the room and all the people to come. Like, we could have another panel there that's more people are going to attend the thing.
Yeah. But also, it's not just that it's weird, it's that it actually can be dangerous. I'm not afraid of this happening to me necessarily, but when you introduce a paradigm that the scientific community can't substantiate or verify, and you're making claims about helping someone alleviate suffering and healing them, like Ignaz Semmelweis, I think I'm saying his name right. I think he's a Hungarian doctor. He's the guy who discovered, like, if our hands are in this like bleach solution, then we have
the germs and stuff. Yeah.
This was before the germ theory of disease. This was before that. So before that, his students were like, oh, these women or the babies, I can't remember if it was the women or the moms or the babies, they're not dying as much in this section of the hospital. And so he was like, let's not rock the boat here. But his students were like, something's happening here. We got to pay attention. And they were advocating for, hey, and the establishment was like, what are you talking about? They were like, that's nonsense.
Yeah. Usually the establishment of most places, they're just so set in their ways. And it takes a younger mind, a younger person who's just like not so steadfast in the way things have always been done to be like, hey, and then there's resistance, and with anything, it takes years to get it going. Yeah.
There's something, I don't remember who studied this, but there's 3 phases when there's a shift. And I think the first phase is it's ignored. Like someone's proposing something, they just ignore it. The second phase is it's gaining traction, and it's like, okay, we're going to ridicule you now. Like, now that more people are talking about this, the establishment has to ridicule the challenger. And then the third phase is, oh, that's actually true. The earth revolves around the sun. Oh, okay, right? Like, you can point to many examples of this. So Semmelweis was institutionalized, and he died several weeks after being institutionalized, probably likely from being beaten up by the guards.
Yeah.
And so only post-mortem was he found out to be correct through the germ theory of disease. So I think Dick Schwartz, the founder of IFS, is understandably concerned about not just that the model will get ridiculed, like the classic phase of these paradigm shifts, but maybe he doesn't want to get Semmelweised,
It's scary out there, dude.
So, but I'm not, and when Bob talks about this, he's like, I'm 75, however old he is. He's like, I'm in my 70s. Like, oh, he just turned 70 last year. Actually, I shouldn't say 75. So I think doesn't matter. He's like, I don't have a career to protect. What am I? But most people don't want to talk about this stuff because it's going to ruin their career. For me, I'm like, that just sounds like another fear. I'm not afraid of that at all.
Yeah.
But it's true, when you do start to talk about this stuff, like, people will look at you like, okay, Robin's been taking too many mushrooms or something. I don't know.
What was the thing you called it? What was like the 3 stages?
I don't know what they're called, but the 3 stages are the establishment will ignore it, then they'll ridicule it, and then they'll accept it.
There's just like there's a thing at my work. I work in the kitchen at my work, and there's a door that leads to like the front office, like a little shortcut, and you could easily go in there and get to the. I mean, literally, it takes like just another couple steps to get around to the office, but the door is for years the door that everybody used to like do the little shortcut. But I was like, I'm doing work in there, and then people will come the opposite. There's no window to the door, so they'll come through the other way, and I'm like putting some stuff away on the shelves, and I'll get hit by the door, or it'll like make a bunch of stuff spill. And so I was just like, this door is. I tried so many times. I was like, this door is off limits. But at first, people just ignored it. They just kept going through the door, going through the door, and then eventually, I was just like, all right, well, I got to put like a sign up here. Like there's more. And then like sometimes people would come through and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm doing it anyway, but I know you don't want me to, but just it's okay because it's me. I'm allowed to do it. And then it's like it took years to actually get people to stop going through the door. Like I had to actually put like more or less block the door for people to stop using it. And then it's like, okay, I'm not going to go out of my way to move the stuff that he put in front of the door.
Right.
So now but it took like years, and I was just like, dude, like how come like nobody will respect, like I don't want people coming in and out through the kitchen this way. But it's just the same thing. It's like you can't just tell people to start doing something and they're going to start doing it immediately after they've been doing it for so long. Like I think about this with like, you know, there's a huge generation gap, but like with Congress and just lawmakers, there's a bunch of older people who are set in their ways, and there's younger people who want the things to change ASAP. And it's just like, it's not, these people have been doing it for so long, and it's important that they do change, but it's going to take a long, long time for it to happen, just because they're not going to just do it overnight. Whereas the younger people are just like, yes, we could just have it change overnight. And it's just like, it's going to take, it takes years. And just that thing with the door just kind of,
Well, I appreciate you. It makes sense to me why you're associating to that story and that experience that you had. It's also maybe the case that change does take a long time, but it also, I don't know, like sometimes there's a momentum gathered and then sudden change happens, right? Like rubbing 2 sticks together, there's momentum, then it starts to smoke, and then combustion happens. Like, whoa, there wasn't a flame. Like for 30 minutes, there wasn't a flame, but now there's a flame. And that's a big difference.
Yeah, but that's like an independent, like when it takes people and you're trying to get people to change, that's a different story. Yeah.
Sure. By the way, I should say we were talking about Lent at the top of our conversation. I give up all the fun substances, and so today's my cheat day for caffeine, and so that's why I'm probably talking a mile a minute. I'm like, I go hard on the cheat day. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to have caffeinated. I'm not going to waste my caffeine on tea. I'm like, of course I'm going to go to Starbucks and get a nitro. Like I want something good, you know, but then I get home and I'm like, well, I don't get to have this matcha tea any other time. So then I really go, I have a part of me, a dosing part of me that impulsively will take substances and be like, all right, this is our only day. So let's fucking go to town. So I'm jacked on caffeine. Now, the good news though, when you come off of caffeine, people, what's the number one, or what's one of the most common things you hear people talk about when they like haven't had their caffeine? What do they describe? Their symptoms?
Just being super like they didn't sleep, like just, you know, real lazy, like can't really concentrate, that kind of stuff.
They might have fatigue. They might be irritable. They might talk about a caffeine headache. Like I'm getting, you know, because I haven't had my caffeine.
Withdrawals.
Right. Withdrawals.
Yeah, I haven't drank. Maybe in my whole life I've had like a couple sips of coffee. Like I've never had coffee in my life. So it's always been like foreign to me when people are like, oh man, I really like, and like only now, like I feel like I haven't been sleeping well. I don't know if it's like related to anxiety, but I was like, do I need to start drinking caffeine? Like, should I, is this going to help me? And I was just like, there's got to be some other ways to like.
Yeah, well, good for you, by the way, because I mean, caffeine's very addictive. And just to close that point is when you're abstaining for a week, even if you bomb your body with caffeine, like I don't get the withdrawal. But when you're having it day after day after day after day after day, and then you go off of it, it's a nightmare. It is really a nightmare. I'm now like very committed to like gradually coming off of substances instead of just cold turkey immediately, because it's just it's really not pretty. Like especially with caffeine, you would think like all the other substances, those would be harder. No, caffeine is where I'm like, don't I'm like Bruce Banner. Like you wouldn't
Yeah,
like me
just
when
a
I'm
little.
angry.
Yeah, just the littlest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember once it was me and my buddy, and we went to go see X-Men, one of the X-Men movies, like midnight show.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so tired." And he was like, "Oh, let's go get a coffee or like a maybe it was espresso." I think they did an espresso shot, and he was like, "You'll be fine. You'll be able to stay up." And I couldn't tell you what happened in the movie because the whole time I was just like, like looking at the walls, like the wallpaper, and I was
The
just like, I was
details,
just
the
fucking buzzing,
details.
dude. I just couldn't. Yeah, I think it was the X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I'm just like, I
Mhm.
don't know anything about what happened in the movie because I was just like, I'm just not used to doing the caffeine.
Dude, the X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's not the same one. That's not Logan. That's
No,
different
it's
from,
like the
yeah.
farthest. It's like the farthest thing away from
Okay,
Logan.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Okay. By the way, you mentioned real quick side commentary on Logan.
yeah,
I whenever that movie came out, Kelly and I did see it in theaters, and I remember like I was a dad when it came out, and so I remember watching. I was fucking crying. I was like, this
oh
is so
yeah, yeah.
sad.
It's totally different if you have kids,
Oh
and
my
if
god.
yeah, if you don't have kids.
Oh my god. Anyway, you mentioned you haven't been sleeping well. What's that? What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Not I've been waking up. I've never had a problem really falling asleep, but I've been waking up in the middle of the night. Like
Yeah.
this started happening about a month ago, and well, it leads back. It stems back further, but the most immediate problem is the past month, and I feel like this usually happens around when there's like the time change. Like I feel like I'm real sensitive to the
Oh
time change.
sure. Oh
So
yeah.
it's like, oh, we're gonna jump forward an hour. So like a couple weeks ahead of time, all of a sudden I'm waking up earlier so
Hmm.
that eventually when the time changes, I'll adjust. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is probably it. But I've just been way more exhausted, and like my eyes are twitching, and like I'm just like I feel like I'm lightheaded, and I'm just like what's going on here? There's definitely some deeper thing to it. And I've tried. I went to the weed store and I got the CBD gummies,
Hmm.
and that hasn't really. The only thing that's worked with that is I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll still be tired, so it's a little bit easier for me to go back to
Go
sleep.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like I'm still not getting like that. I feel like I'm just in bed with my eyes closed. I'm not really like
Yeah.
sleeping, or I've been dreaming more than I was before. But I think that's usually I dream more when I wake up in the middle of the night and then I go back to sleep. If I like sleep the whole night through, no dreams. But if I wake up and then go back to sleep, that's the where all the
We
dreams come
we we also talked about this on your last appearance. I think it was the Christopher Walken flying or whatever. You're like, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can go pee and then like come back to
yeah,
bed.
I try to keep the momentum going. Yeah,
Keep the
but I don't know,
momentum.
man.
And
It's just
yeah.
but like I'm only like the past couple of years I've become more aware of anxiety. Like me and my wife were trying to have a kid,
Mm.
and I wound up like grinding my teeth like out of my head. Like, and so that's been a huge issue the past couple of years.
I can
And then,
relate.
and then once we were like, okay, it's like, or there'd be like times where she was like, oh, I think this month might be the month. Like her period was late, and then after
Mhm.
a couple of days, I was like relieved. Like I was like having stomach issues, and so I was like, okay, it's not that. I've just been trying. This time, I've been trying to I became more aware of how anxiety can affect your body.
Yeah.
This time around, I'm kind of like clueless as far as what's causing it. In the past, I've been like, oh, this anxiety is stemming from this, and this is coming from this. But right now, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what the problem is.
Well, I can certainly relate. I used to get a like a guard, like a mouth guard for grinding to be
Yeah.
like so you don't hurt your, and I still to this day, if I have something trying to think now, it's been a while now because I the most stressful one of the most stressful things I have experienced recently was having those talks, like anticipating those talks with my clinicians and like
Uh-huh.
giving them the news. But I don't remember waking up with a sore jaw. But every now and then I will wake up and that'll clue me in. And I know I'll be like, oh, my body is carrying something that even on an unconscious level that I'm not necessarily aware of, really afraid about. I'm afraid of something, and
Yeah.
the stress and the anxiety is basically getting discharged while I'm asleep and resting, and it's like this
It's
excess energy.
it's fucking blowing my mind. Like, it's so wild just the past couple years coming to this where it's just like, what's the thing? It's like your brain is piloting the skeleton, wearing the meat. It's like there's so many factors. There's so many. It's not just you're not just like one complete thing. And it's just like your brain. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not like I personally didn't feel like I was that stressed about having a baby, but on the inside, I totally was. And like I
Yeah,
wish
that's right.
somebody had suggested like the mouth guard way before, and then that would have prevented a lot of the issues.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. First of all, you're preaching to the choir on not being unitary, right?
Yeah,
Like people classically, like the classic thing is like, okay, part of me wants to, have the ice cream, but the other part of me knows like, nah, it's not going to be good. Like I'll eat too much, I'll regret it. That's a classic split between not being one thing. You have
yeah,
two divisions, but you're also talking about like, or sorry, the other way you can think about it is like I'm thinking from my head, but my gut, my stomach is like I'm thinking this is a good idea, but something else is in my gut feeling like maybe this is not such a good idea, right?
yeah,
People have a brain in their heart, they have a brain in their gut, they can have a brain in their pelvis, where
yeah.
right? Like
It's wild to think like, oh, like the brain is in control, but it's just like the other parts of the body can decide like, dude, I'm taking control. Like
that's
I'm
right.
not feeling good, and I'm going to show you, almost like an animal level kind of thing, where it's just like I'm going to show you by doing this. You're going to be having weird bowel movements. You're not going to be
That's right.
sleeping. You're going to be, and it's just I'm letting you know that you should be worrying about this more than maybe you think you are.
No, that's right. And that's not uncommon. Physiological syndromes as an effect or a byproduct rather from psychological tension, stress, dilemmas, right? Um, yeah, like people get stressed out, they have diarrhea, or they can't go to the bathroom. Like
Yeah,
their intestines are impacted by. So you might just some listeners might be thinking psychosomatic. Like, what is Robin saying? It's all in my head. Like, what the fuck, man? It's like, no, no, no. I'm not saying it's all in your head. I'm saying some of it's in the head and
yeah,
some of it's also in the body, and they're not agreeing, which is why yeah, there's not integration. There's not agreement. So you're talking about waking up in the middle of the night. I know for myself, if I'm really stressed out or if I've had too much caffeine, maybe, uh, yeah, I'm gonna lay down my head at night and my body's still, but all this energy is like, okay, Robin's not running. He's not running. So we're gonna run up here. We're gonna
yeah, yeah.
run the thoughts.
Yeah, I've always been an early riser, but it's not. It's like I'll wake up and not feel this exhausted, or like I would like not being able to like focus. So it's not, so I'm like, okay, it took me a while to be like, oh, maybe it's just the time change thing. Like whatever the problem is, it always takes me a while to put two and two together. I guess I have to like
Right.
eliminate like, okay, it's not this, it's not this. And so now I'm like, I don't know, not quite sure. It might be it's like I got noisy neighbors downstairs, and I've had problems in the past with like they're making too much noise, and that's affecting my sleep. So I'm just like,
Right.
maybe it's the compound compound thing. Who knows? I'm gonna try to like okay, new season. My wife was like, oh, she suggested this before. Let's just put the bed in the other room. And I was like, I was like frustrated. I'm like, why do I got to move the bed? They're the ones who are like making the noise, but it's just
Right.
like
Right.
they're not gonna stop. So it's gonna be up to me to like change. If I want to get better, I got to change my surrounding.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question because feel free to say no at all. And
Yeah,
there's um I'll provide the caveat that we can edit out. This won't go live until a couple
that's
of
all good, man. Yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say what because um for other guests, I might not even broach personal topics, but for friends, I'm like, yeah, let me just tell me if this feels not right. But you mentioned, you and your wife are trying to have a baby, and
yeah,
when you were describing that, you were naming fear, like fear or relief. Help me know a little bit more about like what's the what's the stressful is it the stress is coming from we want to have a baby and we're not able to would
yeah.
you
Not
feel
being able
comfortable
to.
talking about that?
Not yeah, oh, yeah, totally. Because it's like we're kind of well. This is the thing. I suggested we tried for like 2 years, and then like we're not trying, but it's just kind of not working. And like
Hmm.
I was like, okay, like maybe I should get a vasectomy and just kind of
Hmm.
like it's not like we're gonna be done because it still causes stress. Like when if her period's late, it's like well. we kind of get our hopes back up again, even though we're like, we're okay, we're cool with not having
Mhm.
a kid, but there's always like in the back, you're like, well, but you know, it'd still be nice. Um, so it's like, okay, vasectomy would get it totally like, it's not going to happen.
A
So I
clear
feel like,
closing a door on something.
yeah, totally closing the door. It's not going to, so it's like, but without doing that, I feel like there's still always, even though it's been 2+ years with no positive results, it's
Mm.
like, well, but maybe it still might, you know, it still might happen. So there's always that kind of like, worrying of like towards the end of the month, like, is it gonna happen? Even though we don't think it is, but it's just like, you know, without like the positive, like 100% closing the door, you never, you never know. Because then people are like, oh, maybe once you stop thinking about it, that's when it's gonna happen. And so we're like, okay, because before we were doing one
IVF.
like shady, we were, talking with Shady Grove Fertility and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like forgetting now. Oh, we were talking with them and doing all the things that they were saying, but it was like, oh, we have to like do it at this certain time, and it was becoming almost like a chore. It wasn't like
Right.
it was taking the joy out of it. So then it was like,
Sure.
okay, stop thinking about it, even though it's hard to to do that.
Of
But
course.
stop thinking about it, just kind of whatever, and then maybe it'll happen. But and then still no results. But there's always like that little bit in the back where it's like, if unless it's 100% certain that it's not going to happen, then you're still kind of. I think
Right.
honestly, dude, I don't know. It's like there's no, and they were like, oh, there's no reason. Like nobody really, like your samples look good, her samples look good. So it's like what's even weird is that there's no like concrete evidence as far as like why
Yeah.
it's not working. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
could be honestly. She Hannah thinks, and I probably agree with her. Like probably just microplastics and stuff, dude. Like just all this stuff that we've consumed like over the years might have had a like because we're both relatively healthy
yeah.
people. We're not like fitness gurus or anything like that, but it's like this on paper. It seems like everything should be
Right.
fine.
So you and Hannah think it's microplastics. That's one theory, right?
That's
Now,
just like the theory we're kind of like telling ourselves, like oh, like because it's like you want answers as far as why it's not
of
happening,
course.
and the you're not getting any answers from anywhere else. So it's just kind of like, well, it's probably years of microwaving your food in Tupperware and that kind of like it just comes from like I saw something recently and it showed like I think a placenta did like a study on a woman's placenta and just like how many microplastics and stuff are like in like present
Oh, yeah.
in the placenta, dude. Yeah.
Oh, that's depressing. Yeah. Well, let me ask you, do you feel that what we're talking about is connected to the loss of sleep? Did you mention that earlier?
It's like not currently, like in the past that was a
Hmm.
problem, and then once it was like okay, we're gonna kind of pump the brakes on trying so hard to make it happen. But so now, yeah, I'm trying to like check off like all the things that it could be, and I'm just not getting the yeah.
Yeah. Like again, allowing for multiplicity in someone, you know, it's worth asking a question. Is there a part of you that wants to be a dad, and is there a part of you that's afraid of being a dad? I mean, because a lot of people, they like parenthood scares them the fuck out. Like, but also they also know I really want to be a parent, or I've wanted to be a parent. I know that I wanted to be a dad for a long time. So again, if you allow for multiplicity, you can respect both parts. Like for me, a dilemma of like, oh, do I want to get a vasectomy? Is two children are like a good number, right?
Yeah.
Versus do I want to close that door? And I can have a part of me that's like, I don't want to close that door. And I can
Right.
have
Yeah.
another part of me that's like, fucking, why haven't we closed this door like a year
Yeah. Yeah.
ago?
There's definitely a part of me deep down that's not a vocal part, but that's just like, oh, it'd always be nice. But also it's like we're like dude, we're 40. It's such a wild year. Like so many people have been having uh
Hmm.
40th birthday parties. And it's just so weird to think that it's just like thinking about adults like when we were kids and it's just like they're just you but older. It's not like
Hmm.
they know more shit, they just have more life experience. But like I'm still the same dude I was like I think when I was like in my 20s. I'm just older and I have more
Hmm.
experience and I know what I don't want to happen and ways to deal with certain things. But it's not like there's quote unquote adults. It's just you learn things. Um,
Well, and go ahead.
but what I was going to say is we've come to like okay, we started trying to have kids in like the last 2+ years. So now I'm almost 40, and I'm just used to. I go to sleep whenever I want to. I can just do whatever. Like after work, I don't have like I have so many friends, and they're like, dude, having kids sucks. Like they're not like they're super. They're just like, hey man, I'm gonna be super honest. Like we'll be watching football, and they'll come over and they're just. It's so great, just like not having like I can just do whatever I want to. I don't have to worry about it, you know.
Yes,
And
yes,
like
yeah.
I had another friend, and he was like, honestly, he was like 90, like he's like, I love being a dad, I love my kids, but he was like 90% of the time it really sucks. At least for like, I guess for the people who are telling me this are kids who are young. I don't know. I haven't heard
That's right.
anybody, the kids that
No,
are older, anything like that. But they're just like, man, it's just constant, especially when you have two like really close together kind of thing. Like I was only child, so I didn't have to. I'm sure my mom didn't have to like worry about that. But when you have two, and they're just like, it just adds double the trouble, you know.
double the trouble. Well, also,
Yeah.
I think they've researched this that at least you know, two-parent households, couples that have kids, they talk about their like life satisfaction, not relationship satisfaction, life satisfaction. And their life satisfaction is the highest before they have kids and after their kids leave the home. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like a U, it like dips and then it comes back up. So it's like child rearing ages, like the chapters of raising children are very, very stressful. And yet when you ask people, you know, they're like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't trade it in for anything. But yeah, like we dads and moms are like stressed the fuck out. So yeah, when you see our counterparts that are just like away from their kids, it's like, man, what a blessing this is to like have a break from this. And so when you're talking about that, Rich, you're saying I'm getting all this like external data about how how stressful and how terrible being a parent is, and how do you metabolize all that? How does all that land on you?
Well, I think it's because like the people who I know that had kids had them like mid 20s, early 30s, and so it's like once you've like I've gone 40 years no kids. So the longer you go without them, the
Oh,
easier you're
sure.
just like I'm definitely not, you know, I'm definitely not having them. Or
Sure. So
you become more accustomed to it, and it's like it's good like change. It's good to mix things up for yourself, but you become so just like what we were talking about before with like just trying to change the simplest thing. Once you become so used to doing something, you've been doing it for so many years, it's hard to think like I'm not gonna, you know, how am I gonna change this? Like,
right. I mean, let me go out on a limb and ask, is there a part of you that's scared about the changes that a child would bring to your and Hannah's world? Like not just like your life and your routine, but like your whole world with you and Hannah together.
I don't think so. Because like when we first met, we were like, man, like we'll make some cute kids. Like we were just like before we even talked about marriage, we were like, man, kids. Like we like you know, and like I've worked with kids for 20 years. Like I feel like I'd be
That's
okay
right.
with having kids, and she has siblings and cousins, and I feel like it'd be the same. I'm not afraid because we have so much downtime as two two adults with no kids to just watch TV and goof off and stuff. So it's like I think it would be scary, but I wouldn't be. I guess I'm not, you know, not opposed. If it was to happen, I'd be like, okay, cool, you know, like I, you know. But it's gone to the point where I'm like, I don't want to be 45 with a newborn, and then I'm like 55, 60, like I don't. Oh, we're gonna go outside, throw the ball around. Oh, I'm, you know, like I'm not. Hopefully, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna be like 55, not be able to move around and stuff. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be like an older
Old
dad.
dad. Old
Yeah, who
dad.
can't physically do it. And it's like also like even now, like when I first started working with the kids at the daycare versus now, I can't do the same things that I did when I was 25, jumping off the slide and hanging up upside down from the monkey bars and doing this stuff like that. I feel like I could still do the stuff, but I'm more aware of like what's this going to do to me. When I was younger, I would jump off the stuff and I wasn't concerned with how's this going to affect me. But now I'm like, fuck, if I break something, I'm going to be out for like this amount of time. That's going to cost me money, the insurance. Like there's, you know, before you're on when you're on your parents' insurance, fucking who cares? Do whatever you want to. But once you get older and then also just like the recovery time, like you just see when you just like, oh, night of drinking. When you're younger, no, all right, cool, I feel good the next day. But now you're like, man, freaking what I've been hungover for like 2 days. Like just
Yeah.
you age. I don't know how it works for people who are really in like really good shape, but I would just from age, you
No,
know,
totally.
there comes more stuff with that. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, yeah, there's a difference between being a dad in your early 20s and being a dad in your early 50s. You know,
Yeah.
my father-in-law was old dad. Kelly will tell you, you know, he was like the statistic that my wife loves citing, and she's like, my grandfather was born in 1894 or something, like, you
Holy
know,
shit,
because
dude.
yeah, dude, yeah, like her grandfather was born when my dad's grandfather was born or something like that. Like it,
Yeah,
you know, it's
whole generation. Yeah.
because and my father-in-law will say, like, I was a chicken and my dad was a chicken. Meaning, like, so his dad waited until he was in his like 50s when he had Jerry, and then Jerry didn't have Kelly until he was in his 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you compound that, it's like, yeah, that makes for grandpa was born in the 19th century.
That's
But so
wild.
he, like, but being an old he doesn't, you know, age is really, you know, how do you feel? Like you're describing the feeling of having more conscientious or considerations of your body and medical stuff, and maybe seeking lower risk or whatever. But yeah, you know, it's a completely valid perspective to be like, if I have a dad, I mean, if I have a kid now, that'll look a little different, or I certainly, it'll look even different if I have a kid when I'm in my mid 40s, you know.
Plus your perspective, it's like, okay, if I let's say I was to have a kid at 25, and I would be like, yeah, it's cool. Like when I see the kid running around, maybe doing like potentially dangerous stuff, compared to as somebody who's 40 seeing the kid do potentially dangerous stuff. It's like, is the kid going to have the same kind of experience? Not even on my physicality, but I'm going to be like way more aware of like, oh, don't do that. Like, am I going to be trying to tell the kid not to be more cautious
Right.
of, and like, are they going to get the same kind of experiences? Whereas if I was younger, I'd be like, sure, climb the tree, jump off the thing, like you'll be fine.
You know what? And that's one of my biggest regrets as a dad, is to let my fear and anxiety get into my girls. So in the spiritual framework, what I would say is, not that you can lay everything at the feet of your parents, but my guess is my mom and dad, to differing degrees or whatever, uh, had concerns or anxieties or worries or fears that, you know, if I was going to do something risky, maybe they were going to tell me not to, or they would just communicate like, "Oh, careful, careful." Well, that's a burden that they carry, that they pass down to me when I'm a little itty bitty kid,
Oh yeah,
and that gets into me. And then when I have little itty bitty kids, then that burden gets embodied and acted out with them, where it's like, oh, don't do that. Oh, careful, careful. And so what the caregiver is doing is they're passing this legacy burden down the descendant line, right?
yeah,
And so if I could do parenting, I mean, my girls are 8 and soon to be 6. If I could go back and do, I mean, I probably do a lot of things different, but one of the biggest things, right? One of the biggest things I would do is just note that fear that's happening inside of me and see if I could calm it down internally,
oh yeah,
and let them take risks really young. Like, let them bump their fucking head, skin their knee. They're super resilient. So let them do that early, instead of like protect, protect, protect. And then they're like kids. When kids are overprotected by their parents, it
yeah.
fucking shows. It
Yeah.
shows, dude.
And then they get
Yeah.
crazy. Like my mom when I was a little kid is do whatever, play in the dirt, whatever. But then when I got to like middle school, high school, she did like a total 180 and was just super overprotective. And I think it's just because she knew, because like when she was a teenager, she did all kinds of crazy stuff. And
Uh-huh.
she just assumed he's probably going to do the same crazy stuff. And so she was extra overprotective. And I was like, Mom, fuck. I was like, why can't, like, oh, people are going to Deep Creek. But it was like, oh, you can't go. Oh, they're going to do this. And I was just like, I felt so sheltered in high school.
Yeah.
And then I wound up in my like 20s, once I was driving and I was like doing stuff on my own outside of high school. I was like, now's my time to get nutty and
Take
do fun
risks.
stuff and take risks. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's actually carried over into like who I am as an adult. Like some people do it when they're a teenager and like they get it out of their system and then they become more mature. Whereas me, it was
Yeah.
like I started doing the risky stuff in my 20s and then I stayed like, because like when is it, like 26 when your brain develops?
They used to think it was, yeah, 25. Maybe it could be 26 now when you're when you your brain continues to change throughout your entire life. But in terms of new structures coming online, yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was 25, but maybe the latest research shows 26. Yeah.
But so it's like I think like that was around the time where I was like, hey, yeah, freaking doing risks, and I don't know. So it's like maybe it was like I sacrificed having a good time in high school, but then now I have a good time all the time when I'm a grown up. Like who knows?
Dude, it happened. It happened to me. Being sort of, I'll use the phrase over controlled, over restricted.
Yeah.
And this is a cautionary tale for listeners. If your kids are 17, 18 and going to go to college this fall or like what happened to me was I went to undergrad and got on alcohol probation, got on academic probation. Like I went nuts, right? Because I finally had freedom.
Yeah.
And that transition didn't have to be this springboarded, pent up rocket launch. Like it could have been more like pouring water out as opposed to like
moderation, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So but I wanted to ask you, Rich, I wanted to kind of circle back and ask you about the sleep issue, like and folding this into what I was describing with IFS and seeing the mind as multiple and the power of curiosity and humility.
Mm-hmm.
When you're waking up in the middle of the night, or if you're going to sleep, kind of being like, oh, I hope I don't wake up in the middle of the night because I'm going to feel really tired. Or if you wake up in the morning and feeling really tired and you're like, what the fuck? Why does this keep happening? Do you ever inquire, not outside, not like going on WebMD or whatever and like looking for exponent research? Do you ever U-turn and get curious and ask inside what's going on and then wait for an answer without thinking and seeing what comes? Have you ever done that?
I might try that tonight, man, just to see if I can get some answers. I think I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I try to be like, oh, you'll be fine. Like you're gonna sleep. You'll be okay. Because I don't have the problem going to sleep. It's just like later. And like I've in the past, I can get by on like 5 hours of sleep and function pretty normally. So that too is why it's just like, okay, even like on the low sleep, you're way more discombobulated than you normally are.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be I don't know, man.
But you don't want this. You don't want this to be happening in your life.
No.
Right. Yeah, right. So you want it to change. But so you said you give it a shot. My question is, do you, and again, I feel a part of me coming in with an agenda, like, let's see if Rich is down for this, but do you want to try that now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the question. To be radically respectful of all of you, is there any part of you that doesn't want to try that right now? Because you're on air. I told you that we could cut this out if you don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well,
is there any part of you that's not on board with this?
No, man, I'm down.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'll ask you to go inside. You can go inside closing your eyes or not. Doesn't matter. People can go inside without that. I'll just ask you to...
Closing my eyes is easier.
Okay, all right. So go inside. And this is not hypnosis. I'm not going to ask you to take any deep breaths or anything like that. Just to get relaxed. Do get yourself into a comfortable position where you feel like you're not, about to do something active. Because I promise you, it works a lot better without effort, which sounds like a paradox, but just there's no need to effort here. So I know I asked you if there was any part of you that didn't want to try this, run this experiment or try this out. But I want you to just ask that question one more time inside, and we're just going to wait for like a minute, right? Like I'll watch the clock. Because sometimes people have shy parts that they don't speak up right away. Like in my story, when I was like, this guy didn't speak up for years and years and years until he was like, I don't want to be a group practice owner. So just wait for a minute. We'll hang out in silence and ask that question again and say, is there anyone in here that doesn't want to do this? And then just wait. So I'll watch the clock. Let's just hang out for a minute. Make sense?
And so what am I asking the group?
You're going to just ask, is there anyone in here that doesn't want to try this out? Try out this getting to know like maybe I'll learn something here about why I'm waking up in the middle of the night and why I'm
Okay.
stressed out. Is there anyone that's afraid of learning something new here? You know, just ask that and I'll hang out and watch the clock.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm not hearing any like anybody saying no.
Okay, great. We're going to take that as implicit permission.
Yeah.
All right. So then just notice, I'm going to ask you, Rich, are you curious to find out what's going on with your sleep and carrying stress? Are you curious to know about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And do you feel anxious about getting to know? Because there's a difference between feeling curious and feeling like we got to find this out. We got to figure this out now, now, now. Do you feel any kind
I
of rushing urgency about it or just relaxed curiosity?
I guess somewhat anxious because I want to get back to sleeping good and
Okay, perfect.
not feeling messed up like during the daytime. Yeah.
Perfect. So, okay. So go ahead and let the part of you that is like, I really want to get this thing figured out so I can go back to getting a lot of sleep and going back to normal and getting healthy sleep, right?
Mhm.
We're going to assume that's a part of you. So the part of you that feels like we got to fix this, you know, so I can get back to normal. Kind of focus on that part and find where does it hang out in your body or your mind? Where do you get a sense of that part that wants to fix this?
I feel like it's like like in Power Rangers, like the Tyrannosaurus, the Red
Yeah, the
Rangers,
Red
he's
Ranger.
like right up on the top. Like he's like on like riding on top. Like the
Perfect.
yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So it takes the form of like the Red Ranger on the top above the head.
Yeah.
Okay. So focus on that guy who wants to fix this. He's a very, very valuable part of you, Rich. We all have parts like this, the problem solvers. As you focus on him from your heart, how do you feel towards him? Do you
Where's the guy in the
appreciate,
top?
yeah, towards this Red Ranger? How do you appreciate him? Are you annoyed by him? Anything at all?
No, I feel good because he's trying to like help me get if he's feeling good, then everybody's gonna be feeling good.
Right. Right. So you feel good towards him and you appreciate what he's trying to do for the totality of you.
Yeah, because I've been like the past, like I went and like hung out with some friends the other day, and I was like telling them about this problem that I'm experiencing with the sleep, and I'm just like, man, it's just weird. Like normally, I'm not the like I'm okay with expressing stuff like that, but normally I'm like, hey, what like I'm the one who's here to listen to other people, and
Hmm.
so it's just weird for me to be like, yeah, I'm really going through this. I'm usually like real positive, so it's weird for me to have this and be like, yeah, I'm kind of going through this like this like
Right.
crappy shit.
Right. Right. You're used to being in the other role and it feels a little strange to be the one who's asking for a witness to
Yeah,
hear
and I
you
want
out.
to be like on like I want to be honest. Like when somebody's like,
Hmm.
hey, how's it going? I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going through a rough patch.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, by the way, the part of you that is that Red Ranger the guy who feels that way? Like he doesn't want to, he's not used to being the one sharing about his problems, or is that a different part of you, Rich?
I feel like like right now I can see it like a different. There's like a different. He's up there, but then there's like the unified part that's just like don't really want to
That's right.
put that on everybody. Yeah.
That's right. No, don't want to burden other people with your problems, but also you don't want to be inauthentic and just like keep it,
Yeah.
inside. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So we're gonna treat that as a separate part. How do you feel towards that one as well? Does it make sense what it's saying about not wanting to burden others and not being used to being in that role with people?
Yeah, because I feel like it's not normally it's like stuff I can deal with on my own,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of like, let's just I don't know. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe if it's like people they become they're used to like, hey, he's the good time party guy, like so that kind of
Right.
putting that kind of thing out there, and then like talking about it, and then like the conversation turns towards that, and it's just kind of like it's like a downer.
It's a downer. So his concern is like, so it sounds like you're used to being positive, uplifting, and he doesn't really enjoy the fact that he's got to carry these problems and speak for them or
Yeah,
And again, if I'm getting any of this wrong, feel free to correct me because I might
Yeah,
not be.
yeah.
Because you're the expert of your own life, obviously. So I'm simply conjecturing. So, and again, just noticing both of those parts that you've named. How do you feel towards both of them from your heart?
It's hard for me to be the guy that's like, yeah, I'm having problems. You know what I mean? Like it's never been easier for me to do that kind of thing.
Right. Right. So it's hard to.
I don't know if it's just like a social. You know, you're like at a party. It's not normal for I wouldn't say not normal, but it's rare for somebody to be like, yeah, man, here's all my woes. Like,
Yeah, it feels out of character for you.
yeah,
Totally. Yeah. Right. So that's what he's describing. He's like, man, I'm not usually this guy, but I am now.
yeah.
And that's hard for me. So as you hear him saying that, like when you're in social settings and he has to be like, yeah, I'm kind of bummed out or I'm struggling with this stuff. When you hear him talk about how he's not used to carrying all that, how do you feel towards him, Rich?
I don't know. It feels all right because it's like I'm being honest with myself and I'm being honest with like other people, and I don't want to just put on airs and be like, yeah, everything's hunky dory, and it's just like if something's really bothering you, I want to be real, and I want to tell people the truth.
Yeah. So let him know that you appreciate his commitment to authenticity and his courage to not just keep it all inside and being able to like connect with other people around it. Let him know you really do appreciate his what he does for you and that he is sharing it, not kind of keeping it all alone and isolated.
Yeah, yeah,
Just let him know that.
yeah.
And just like you had clarity on the problem solver guy who's above your head as a Red Ranger, how does this other part that we're talking to, this target part, how does it show up in your body or mind?
Honestly, it feels like to go with the keep with the Power Rangers thing. It feels like it's like yellow, and it's like in this area.
Okay, so that guy's yellow and he's kind of in front of your chest or
Yeah.
in your chest?
Like I guess if you would keep using the Power Rangers thing, it's like when they all get together, it's like
Mhm.
in like the middle part that's like controlling everything.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I'm just asking if it feels like it's inside or it's outside.
I feel
That
right, like right on the right on the inside. I think. Yeah,
right inside the surface,
yeah.
right there. Okay. So focus on that part, Rich. And how does that part react when it feels your presence and connection and maybe sympathy or compassion for the tough place that it's in right now? How does it react?
It feels good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's just like it's hard to be able to like put what's it called? I don't know. You don't put on a front, but you just being able to be open about stuff
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. So as you notice that part there, maybe ask it if you do feel curious, follow your curiosity. What question would you ask this part? If you had a question for it, this kind of yellow energy in your chest,
Yeah.
what would you ask it?
Hmm.
Again, not efforting. So don't
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
don't let the Red Ranger give you a question.
yeah. No, that's not. I'm just I'm concentrating all on this part.
Yeah, yeah. Just follow your heart. And what question do you want to ask this yellow part?
I guess, are you cool with being like giving this information to people?
Okay. Are you actually okay with letting this out and sharing it with others? Yeah.
Yeah.
So ask it that and then don't think of an answer, Rich. Just wait and see what comes from that place in your chest. And if nothing comes, that's fine. But be patient.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like not liberating, but like I'm getting like I feel like I have the image of like it's like jumping on like a jet ski. It's like yeah, like it does feel good to get that like information out.
Okay. So yeah, so let it know that you get that. It does feel good to share all that with others. So, and notice how it reacts to you getting that.
Yes. Now it's like transitioning to like a bluish kind of feeling.
Hmm. How do you feel
Like
towards it as it shifts into a blue part of you?
good. Like it feels like a real calm, like a calm kind of
Okay.
like it like went to the car wash kind of thing.
Yeah. So it transformed a little bit, or maybe a lot.
Yeah.
Ask it what else it wants to share with you, or what might it need witnessed here this afternoon.
I'm not really getting anything, but it's like yeah, it's like it feels good to be able to just put it out there.
Uh huh. Okay. Yeah. So again, let it know you appreciate it, that it feels good to share it, that it doesn't have to carry all those burdens by itself.
Yeah.
And maybe ask it, is there anything it needs from you? Ask this, it's now blue, right? After going through
Mhm.
the car wash, ask it, do you need anything from me here and now or moving forward in the future? And then wait and see what it says.
I think it's like just to be like in the future if you have like like you're having an issue, you're having a hard time, like don't be afraid to like you can tell people like it'll be fine. Like people are there to listen and they'll give you advice, but you shouldn't have to just feel like you have to be. It's okay to not just be positive all the time.
Okay, so that's what it's telling you. Like it's okay to not be positive all the time.
Well, if you have like this, you got to get it out. Like if you have this thing that's like bothering you,
Hmm.
other people, you listen to other people's stuff, so it's cool for you to turn to somebody else and let them hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense what it's saying?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So let it know that you get that, that you don't have to just always be the one who's positive and listening to other people, that you can actually have a turn unburdening or sharing with others.
Dude, yeah, that's nice, man. Feels like now it's like almost like freaking White Ranger, just like
Hmm.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And ask it, does that feel complete or does it need anything else from you for now?
I think it's good. I think yeah, it's like it feels like freaking unified. Like
Okay.
yeah,
So let it know that, again, expressing gratitude and just thanking it for what it shared with you. And then bring your attention, when that feels complete, bring your attention back to this Red Ranger guy. Is he still up above your head?
I feel like he's like with everybody in the command freaking in the command center.
Okay. Okay. And just ask, is there anyone else that wants you to know anything about what's keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? And again, don't think of an answer. Just wait and
Yeah,
hang
yeah,
out with that inquiry.
yeah. I don't know. It feels like everybody's like on the same level.
Hmm. Everyone's on the same level. Does anyone else need attention in there? And again, just ask the whole group, does anyone else need me to know anything? particularly about the not sleeping right problem or the dilemma of waking up in the middle of the night. So just ask the group and then just wait and see what happens.
It's pretty silent, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just hang out there. So that group doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah.
So just be patient. And it may be, Rich, that you're in this kind of command center and you're asking a group of parts that has nothing to do with the sleep issue.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah.
And so if it feels right to you, just kind of zoom out for a moment and ask the whole system, the whole totality of Rich Del Grande's nervous system. Is there anyone else that wants me to know how they feel about not getting a good night's sleep? And then just wait. You might not get anything, but
yeah,
just ask.
I'm gonna be like, since I started talking to you, I feel like, I mean, I would say I didn't fall asleep. Like I feel better than I did before we like started doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not getting answers. I don't know if it's because it's just where I'm positioned because my eyes are still closed, but it's just like it feels like good, like sun, kind of like a good radiating kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just thank your whole system for what it shared with you today. And the sun that's radiating, you can also thank that if that feels right or feels good.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah, dude, that was good.
Yeah, what did you notice as you shifted back out here?
Yeah, definitely got a little emotional.
So what emotions did you notice?
Just like being able to like to just kind of like give like not give up, but just like let somebody else take control, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was that emotion? I mean, to name, if you could just help me or listeners or viewers know what the name of that is like. What's the name of that emotion to kind of surrender control to someone else?
Well, just I guess to like let your guard down, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Did that feel scary or relieving or?
Yeah, definitely. I think relieving. It's just like it's okay to just like, yeah, you can be upfront or just be like just let it all out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 It's okay to be human.
Yeah,
And very often folks, they don't, first of all, they don't feel like that's okay to like show other people, or they don't feel like it's okay to even just, or they're scared of like, oh, if I actually let all this stuff out, I'll fucking collapse. I will
yeah,
crumble and I won't, Humpty Dumpty won't be able to be put together again, you know? That's a very common fear, is like,
no,
if,
yeah,
yeah. And it keeps people kind of basically stuck and trapped, you know? So I appreciate that you shared all that.
yeah, dude. I'd be super down to do this in like real life, kind of thing. I mean, not this is real life, but like a M, you know, like I wasn't like I was like, okay, like I'd go to therapy, but like yeah, I'd be super down to like try it in real life.
Yeah, it's funny that you say try it in real life, and you're like, not that this isn't real life, because I was gonna say what later this year I'm gonna release the video. It's an unlisted link on YouTube right now, but Bob was in Santa Cruz and I'm here in Silver Spring, and a 90-minute session, he was speaking to me, speaking to my parts, negotiating with many protective parts of Robin Smith that are like, we're not going there, we're not going there, we're not, interlocking protectors that were just not, and he negotiated with them and asked them to relax, ask them to soften back. Are they afraid of doing that? Okay, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't relax? And then he got to 8-year-old Robin stuck in a bathroom in my house in Ashton. Like I witnessed this guy and heard about all his terror and how he was hurt, and then like kind of plucked him out of that scene in the 90s and brought him to Ocean City and had him actually, like, he's like an 8-year-old, like in the model, he's called an exile. In shamanic work, it's like a lost part of your soul that's still there, but it's not integrated into you. It's literally disconnected from you, and you retrieve it and you integrate it and you heal it, because that part is carrying all these burdens, these extreme beliefs, like, oh, I'm bad, or I'm not safe, or things like that. And then the little 8-year-old can he's a little spiritual being, because obviously I'm 39 right now. You know, I was 39 when I did it in July last year. Yeah. And so this 8-year-old got all this stuff out of his body, and it was thunderstorming, like on the connection. I was like, shit, don't lose power right now. I'm in the middle of like a healing session, like a telehealth healing. And during that rainstorm, he let all that stuff out of his body and washing him clean.
You think it's like right now I'm like, oh, trying to think of like things that are bothering me that are present, but it's like it could be something from, you know, years past that's coming up. That's why it's so hard for me to like pinpoint like what it could be. And it's just like it's things that I'm not even thinking about.
Yeah, or it could be very clear about what it is, and people they don't want to. Negative emotion. The reason why we call it negative is because it's unpleasant. Yeah, you know, and so it's a completely understandable and reasonable response to take something that's unpleasant and push it away and avoid it. You know, that's like the instinct of like, oh, there's lions over there. Why don't we go hunt over there? You know, like we don't want to go where there's fucking lions. We'll get eaten. So it's totally, you know, reasonable. The problem is that, like we were saying before, like the mosquitoes are still outside, you know, like
It's like on the way back, the lions are still going to be waiting for us.
Yeah. So it's and right. So there's a way, with or without psychedelics, there's a way to enter that spirit world. And it can't, this is a really, really interesting and cool rule. It's a sort of a law of inner physics. It can't hurt you if you're not afraid of it. So people are afraid of being overwhelmed by their emotions, or or ashamed. Like shame is man, let me tell you something. There's people that work in institutions with the most dangerous individuals in our society. And you say, you know, the emotion that's responsible for all that violence is not anger or hatred or anything like that. The emotion that's responsible for all that is shame. Now, why? Because when the guy's like, if I have a gun in your face, now you'll respect me. Right? Because if I feel like you don't respect me, that's because I feel worthless. I feel ashamed. I feel like nothing. I'm a fucking piece of shit. Like that feeling of shame, man, when you scratch under the sandbox, that's what's at the bottom. That's what's at the bottom. And so people hate to feel that. And so that feeling gets exiled.
Yeah, but they do the other stuff to try to overcompensate.
Oh, totally. But what people don't realize is when they exile the shame, they're not just exiling the belief that I'm worthless. They're exiling a little heart child, the little part of them that carries the fucking belief that belief got into them when something humiliating happened to them, or when they felt like they fucked up and failed at something. And so they're really exiling this little heart child, and they lose that part of themselves. And when people heal and get it back, that part brings with it all these gifts that it used to have before it was exiled, like being playful or being spontaneous or being loving, all the sorts of things that kids naturally are.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, let's pivot here. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate your willingness and your maybe it didn't feel like courage, but openness. You're a really open guy.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah.
It takes openness to run an experiment impromptu on the spot. Um, so
Yeah,
so I
I like to. I think over the years, I think I was shy. I was shy when I was younger, but then to be the like, oh, who wants to go first? And if nobody else wants to go, I'm like, I'll do it, man. And then it just became like, I'm just gonna do it. Like, I don't. Nobody else has to worry about doing it. I like doing it. I'll be the like the volunteer.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I remember Adam Weinstein was talking about a mutual friend of ours was talking about like because his last name is W in school, whenever they would do things like alphabetically, he'd be like, oh, I got plenty of days to like prepare this report because I know I won't
Yeah,
be
yeah. I'm
called.
gonna be last. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then one teacher, whatever grade it was, they're like, we're gonna start at the bottom of the list. And he was like, oh shit. Like,
Yeah, I haven't done anything. I think honestly, it was like when I used to hang out with like I didn't because of my like what we talked about before, my mom being super like strict and controlling and stuff. And she was like, "You're not doing any drugs. You're not doing any drinking or whatever." So I would be hanging out with people, and I was the only sober one or the one who wasn't like high or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
And it was like I don't know if one of the neighbors called the cops, like noise complaint or something like that. And I was like, "I'm fine. I'll go talk to the cops."
Mm.
And then from that, I was like, this is fun. Like I can go talk to the cops. I'm not doing anything, so they can't really. What are they going to do? So it's just
Right.
like it's just
Right.
fun to be like, "What's up, officer?"
Right.
Like
Right.
let's chat.
With me and all my peers, I'm the one who's actually invincible here.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like I'm the most likely to like probably calm the situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So let me ask you, before we got on air, you were telling me about the hot dog aficionado, the Instagram account. And I know it's a hard right turn, but
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean, because at the end of our last episode, I mentioned that, and I was like, "You're like what?" Like that was that was the cliffhanger for
the cliffhanger, and foolish for me to wait until, you know, the 90-minute mark to bring it up, but we have time. So when did you start the account? So tell people, first of all, if people who are like listening to this episode and they're like folding laundry or something and they want to go check this out right now, what's the name of the account? Because there's more than one, right?
No, there's just one.
No. Aren't there multiple hot dog aficionados? Like, there's just one? There can be only one.
Yeah, no. Somebody so it stems from a stupid like joke. Like me and my friends will just I just see goofy dumb shit, and sometimes I'll send you goofy shit. And I was looking at it was Cigar Aficionado magazine, and we were like, man, what about Hot Dog Aficionado magazine? It was just something just stupid, but I was like, we are like, yeah, that'd be pretty funny. And then I was just bored. I guess this was like 2 summers ago. It was around the end of school 2022. And like stuff it's like when you think about some things and like the universe almost like wills it into existence, something like that. So I was like I saw in the school like a big book of like ABCs, and there was like a big H, and it was like H is for hot dog, and I was like, perfect. I was like, let me just make a dumbass Instagram page and just put like weird hot dog stuff on there.
H is for hot dog
Yeah, H is for hot dog.
tipped the scales of action.
But I did like I never. It's been a weird learning experience. Like it's at like almost like 7,000 followers, and I never expected that to be. I just thought it was
Wow.
just a dumb thing for me and my buddy to like make jokes about.
Uh-huh.
And like how goofy is it that this is like a thing, and then it like started to like take off, and I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty." And like I've learned a bunch about social media, and it's like I've gotten like a social media education for free.
Dude, that's
I don't
awesome.
know what that's really worth, but it's just like it's been enlightening
Well,
to you know.
it depends on what you value. Is, you know, what it's worth depends on what you value. But yeah, your account has 7,000 followers.
It's like 66. It's almost like 6,700, something like that.
Right. So you're a nano influencer now. You're like you are, right? There's influencers that have like millions of followers on TikTok and shit. And then I just heard about this the PBS NewsHour last night was talking about like because of the election, Biden and Trump, and like the campaigns are, Trump doesn't use TikTok. He uses Truth Social, of course, like his own platform that he did after January 6th. But like, there's such a thing as having like micro niche audiences. And if you, as like, say, a politician, if you want to influence people to vote for you, like, you don't just go after the big fish. You can find targeted micro or nano influencers that have a small audience, but like their audience is a particular thing. And if you know how to speak to that particular thing, that can cascade. Like if you do that in all these different little, it's like if the internet is a city and you're walking down Main Street and you go into a cafe, like those people vote too, right? So people who, so there's a hot dog niche that you have tapped into, you have found, and they resonate with your content.
I went into it not even knowing. I was just like, oh, it was my buddy, he's in a band in Frederick, and like the whole inside joke with the band was like hot dog success stories. It was just like a stupid thing, and like, oh, we're all eating a bunch of hot dogs. Like, it's like, post a picture. And so that was also part of like he was the first guy who I was like, hey dude, I made this Instagram page, like we should like you're the silent partner. You're like the silent, if anybody ever asks, if it ever goes anywhere, you're like the silent investor kind of thing.
Yeah. What's the name of the band, by the way? Because I bet your old the last time you came on, does that episode promote this band? What's the name of the band?
I don't, Silent Old Mountains.
Oh, maybe not. No, okay. All right. Give them a shout out. Silent. Are they still active?
They play like once every like 6 months or something like that. They've all got like
they're all
4
dead.
out of 6 members have kids. So
Yeah.
they're all kind of, but it's like every once in a while they're like, hey, we're playing a show, and it's like a reunion. Like everybody from town gets together and they're like, yeah, like, it makes everybody feel good.
Hell yeah. All right. Say the name of the band again.
Silent Old Mountains.
Silent Old Mountains, plural, mountains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew Bromwell. Sometimes he'll play shit like independent shows because it's hard to get 6 people together, and like half of them got kids. So he's like, oh, I'll just do my own, do a set of songs just independently kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to link to them in the show notes just because they're getting mentioned here. So what's one of the, okay, so that's the kind of origin story behind the account. And so what's it been like? Yeah, go ahead.
It was super. So it was just kind of goofy. It was like local people were following it. And then last year I was in Greece. So it was like real unexpected. I posted fucking Will Ferrell as Harry Carey. Remember that SNL skit?
Yeah, of course.
And it was like, hey, I'm just asking you a question. If the moon was made out of hot dogs, or if the moon was made out of ribs, I think he was on there like 2 or 3 times. And one was like, if the moon was made out of ribs. And then something was like, if you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Something like that. And like, I guess it just wasn't like, I tried it when I post stuff, I try to make sure it's not stuff that's already out there. Like want to find something that's
original.
Original. Even though it's just a rip of a YouTube video, but it's just like something that
but DJs take music and they can make it into an original work.
Yeah. So I posted that, and it got up to like 1 million views somehow.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I got 1 million views, and it was interesting because it was like it shows you who shares it. And it was like Freddie Prinze Jr. shared it. I was just like, what the hell is like happening? You know what I mean? Like people from SNL liked it, like former members or like people who were like in movies with them. I was just like, the dude from Buck Cherry like shared it. It's just weird stuff like that.
What you're saying is it's very weird to like, you never would have guessed certain celebrities like, oh, this celebrity interacted with my piece of content. Not only did they interact with it like a like, but they actually shared it, which them sharing it fucking boosts eyeballs on it.
Yeah, well, so it's weird because when I used to do, before one of the episodes I talked about when I did the movie podcast and I did the social media for the movie podcast.
Yes.
I'm like the lady who does Bart Simpson's voice.
Nancy Cartwright.
Yeah, Nancy Cartwright. She liked and shared like one of the things, and that was like a brush with like, I was like, what? Like, it's just weird that we're not on the same level, but it's like with the possibility to connect with somebody like that in such a, where years ago would have, all you had was just like, oh, you see them in the magazine and you read a newspaper article, but now it's like you can talk to them. Oh, so with the Simpsons connection, there's a writer from the Simpsons who's a food connoisseur, and I'm friends with him on Instagram, and like we'll talk about stuff. And I'm just like, what's so weird that I'm like friends, Instagram friends with like a Simpsons writer, and like
Yeah.
we're like both doing the same goofy like foods like kind of stuff. It's just wild. It's super wild.
That's very wild. I have to ask, what's the name of the writer?
Bill Oakley,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he wrote the steamed hams episode amongst
Oh,
others. So it's funny that he's become a food guy after like being writing like the most famous like episode about food stuff.
oh my God. Steamed hams.
It's,
It's it's wild. It's a wild world. That's congratulations to you, by the way. You know,
yeah,
again, you might be like, is this really success? I mean, it's a form of success to connect with well, I mean, these are not necessarily like A-listers, but it doesn't matter. They're celebrities and they have a lot of reach. And so for your account, for your post to get like that much viewership, there's a market for it. And so, and the question is, I'm actually curious two things. One is what kind of satisfaction do you get out of running the account and like just being open to like, oh, that's something I could post on the hot dog aficionado account. Like, what's that been like for you?
I think it's been fun. Like it's like sitting around watching TV and I was watching this is like Halloween time, and there's a guy. It's I think the YouTube channel is Cinemassacre, and he like does video game reviews, and he this past year was like the best Halloween special of the '60s, and then best Halloween special of the '70s, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then one of them was like, hey, he picked Happy Days, and then in Happy Days, there's like a part where the dad is making like a joke about hot dogs to the son, and I'm just like, there's something like it's like having something obscure. It's almost like not a treasure hunt, but it's like finding obscure things that I can post and just like, oh, cool, I found this. It's just like that's I think like a rewarding thing is like something that's super unconventional. Like
Right. And you're
like I
not
wouldn't
going
have thought,
hunting for, you're not going looking for it. You just happen to you just happen to come across it. And because you have a hot dog focused account, now it's like a nail. Everything looks like if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like you've got a hot dog bun and you're just interacting with your life and you're like, I could put that in the account, right? Like,
yeah,
or
like
do you go looking for it?
some stuff I go looking for, but some stuff it's just kind of like you're just like, oh, I'm like that'd be perfect. It's like, oh, it's like it's harder than I thought it would be. Like I've been doing it for almost 2 years to just have a completely hot dog focused account.
Yeah, right.
Like when people do fucking run meme accounts, like you have to make sure you pick a good subject because it's like there's times where I'm just like, what the hell am I going to post like the next like 2 weeks? Like I don't know what to post, but then things kind of like come out of the ether and you're just like, oh sweet.
That's right. So how often, I mean, my Instagram account is absolute dog shit. I don't know what I'm doing at all. And I'm okay with that. But I also am, I'm a self-improvement guy and I'm just curious. I'd be a fool not to ask you, not like, what are the top 10 mistakes, but like, what are some, if you could give me one piece of advice for what I should be doing that I'm not doing. And this is kind of related. Sub question here is like, how often do you post? Right. So there's two questions, like how often do you post? And then like, give me a nugget that can help boost my account. Cause I'm not really doing much other than just like posting, a little clip here and there on shows,
I guess the one thing I can tell you, and I learned this on my own, and then I was I can't think of what the word is. Somebody like reaffirmed what I learned that is true. The best time of day is between like 2:30 and like 5:30 in the afternoon is the post between those.
Yeah.
Between those. And I found it out from experience because like I was like, oh, let me just post different times and see and like for a long time I was posting at like 9 o'clock in the morning and I would get okay stuff from that. But then when I started, I was like, oh, I found like I had some downtime at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the PM, and I was like, let me try here. And I found that was the most. I think because people are like in the morning, some people are going to work, but then like right 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, people are getting off of work, and that's when they're checking their phones. So it's like that, and it's like before like they're getting ready to drive home or they're they just have like they're on the metro. They have like a little bit of downtime before like they get home. So that's about the most.
Okay.
The best time is like late afternoon.
2:30 to 5:30 from Boston to Miami in our time zone, because
2:30 to 5:30, I guess East Coast, since I'm on East Coast, and then it's
exactly.
Yeah.
Because and that makes sense to me, because if people wake up, maybe the first thing they do is check social media, but like I'm thinking if people are just focused on whatever is important to them, and then like towards the after lunch, before dinner time, now it's like, all right, I'm kind of done with the whole like grind right now. Let me just like let me go just look at something for entertainment. Like maybe that's a window where, not maybe, it sounds like it is. But okay.
Sometimes like real late, like maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock. That's about like 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m. and 8:30, 9 o'clock a.m. is about the same thing. But right there in the afternoon. And then like Sunday nights, really good.
Yeah. So if I'm busy during all those times, do you use anything to schedule?
No, I just happen to find the time to do it. Like right now, it's about that time.
About that time.
Yeah, but I'm just like, hey, I'm freaking talking to you. Like that's,
yeah.
If and then it's like, yeah, like every day, it's just like, there's some other accounts that post like nonstop, like a bunch of times a day, and it's just like, dude, you're gonna freaking turn people off. Like it's just that's too.
Yeah. So how often do you post?
Like I'll try to do like 2 days in a row, take a break, like 3 or 4 times a week, something like that.
Oh man.
Yeah. If I have something good, I don't want to just put out like crap. If I have something good,
no. For me, I've got to put something on my calendar and then use something to schedule it. Because I don't want to be I don't want to be controlled by the whims of the ecosystem. I'd rather be like, okay, if these are the times to post it, I'll like schedule that, at 9:30 in the morning to schedule it later that day or whatever,
Well, I try to find good, like I found a clip of Alex Trebek talking to a guy on Jeopardy, and it's like the part where he interviews them, like the little
the
interview thing, and he's like, hey, like what do you want to do? Like, what's your hopes and dreams? And the guy's like, this might be weird, but I want to own a hot dog stand. And Alex Trebek's a hot dog stand, and he's like, yeah, I'm from Chicago. And I was like, all right, so I have that like saved, and I'm just like, but when do I use this? And then it's like, oh, the end of I think March 30th is like the 60-year anniversary of Jeopardy. So I'm like, perfect. That fucking goes. Like, I try to connect it to stuff that's not just like randomly. It's just like, oh, it's this guy's birthday. You want to know about this? Like, I want it to be related to stuff.
Does July 17th hold any special significance for you?
Well, why you ask?
It is National Hot Dog Day, so you better fucking.
So I was in Greece actually this past year, and I was like, oh, dude, I was just like, what am I gonna like? Am I gonna be able to put something? And I happened to be in. I found a hot dog stand that I guess Billy Zane had gone to once. And I was like, we're in Greece, and he's a Greek guy. I was like, this is fucking perfect. And like, and in the stand, it was like a picture of him like with the owner, and I was just like, even if nobody really like, I like this. This is good.
Right. This is for me.
yeah. A lot of stuff is just like I'm like, I'm not sure if somebody's gonna care, but I'm like, I think this is a funny thing, and I'm gonna
totally. Oh my gosh. Well, look, time flies whenever I'm with you. It's always a delight to have you.
Yeah,
Rich. Man. I'm fucking glad that you reached out, and you got lucky. You're like, hey, and I'm like, actually, I don't have anyone booked. I'm so glad this worked out, and I want you to come on later this year. I don't know what we'll easily find something to talk about, but I just thank you for coming on.
We talked. We'll just do, because I had an idea to start a podcast, but I never did it. But I have the mobile thing, so we can go like walk in the freaking woods and use that.
Dude, yeah, and you interview me. You interview me.
Yeah, dude, yeah. I like switching it up. I'll be interviewing you, man.
Well, if you don't have a podcast by then yeah, you interview me for the next episode that you come on. But if you do have a podcast, then let's do the interview. You have like a remote mic, like a clip, like thing you clip to your shirt, or
It's like a battery thing. It almost looks like a Men in Black device, and it has like these two like microphone things sticking off the end, and like it picks up sound.
Dude, we I'm down. So it's battery
Yeah.
operated. Let's record an episode on in the trails out in the
Okay.
woods. Let's fucking do it. Awesome. Awesome. Rich Del Grande, where can people find you? And obviously, like, plug the account. What's the hot dog account?
Oh yeah,
We'll put it in the show notes. But
hot dog underscore aficionado on Instagram.
okay. Anywhere else you want to point people to besides, and then also check out Silent Old Mountains. We'll put their account in the show notes too. Anything else you want to point people to?
It's springtime, man. Get out there and check out some theater, go see some bands, like live it up.
Yeah, get off of the internet and go outside and smell that pollen.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, dude.